Hello and welcome to Jo Gard's Writing Life. I'm Jo, I'm a writer and script consultant, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about writing. This week I wanted to talk a little bit about the term exposition heavy. It's a term that I actually use when I'm giving feedback to writers, and I thought it's only fair that I really explain what I mean when I use that term. So the term exposition heavy basically means you're telling too much. So in that good old term, show not tell, you are basically doing the opposite and you're telling too much. Whether that is that you're telling the reader what to think or how to feel, or whether you're shoehorning in backstory in an unnatural or obtrusive way. All of these kind of things add up to an exposition heavy piece of work or an exposition heavy piece of writing. Heavy exposition is most often revealed in dialogue. Dialogue is a really tricky thing to get right, and often inexperienced writers will use dialogue or will use characters to basically tell the reader or tell the audience things in an unnatural way. Often dialogue becomes exposition heavy when there's a vital piece of information that the writer is trying to convey to the reader or the audience, but they do it in an unnatural or uninteresting, non-dramatic way, and therefore it kind of stands out like a sore thumb as a piece of exposition. But the term exposition heavy isn't exclusively related to dialogue. It can definitely show up in scene description. You can have an exposition heavy narrator in a novel if a character says something and then a narrator comes along and explains what that character has said or why that character has said something. That can be deemed exposition heavy. In the same vein, if you're writing a script and you're finding that every other scene that you're doing is a flashback, then you're basically using structure in an exposition heavy way, and you're using the trick of a flashback to tell an audience backstory rather than showing them in an interestingly visual way. You know, flashbacks and dialogue should never be used to tell an audience why a character is happy or why a character is sad or why a character is doing something. The whys behind a character's actions and their words should be something that is intrinsically part of the story. It's what's driving the story forward. It's why you're interested in the characters in the first place as a viewer or as a reader. It shouldn't be something that's told to you. Now, I'm not a script consultant who bangs on about flashbacks and their misuse. You know, I don't have a problem with flashbacks. I don't have a problem with voiceover. I love non-linear storytelling, and I think we're seeing it more and more on TV, and we should be seeing more of it in film as well, and we can definitely see it in novels. I don't have a problem with it. I just think these elements should be used appropriately and with caution, and when necessary. If every other scene in your film is a flashback and they're just telling the audience, you know, things that you could show in a much more interesting way, then you're misusing the flashback. Flashbacks shouldn't be there to simply tell backstory. What they should be there for is to offer a different narrative viewpoint on a subject, or to show something that happened in the past that's going to directly impact on some dramatic action that's now happening in the present. You know, you've got to think about how these tools are going to add to your screenplay or your novel or whatever project you're working on. Don't just use them willy-nilly. In order to avoid exposition heavy work, I think you do need to avoid telling. You need to avoid telling the reader how to feel or telling the audience why a character is doing something. Where possible, try and show, especially in TV and film, you know, they're visual mediums. You've got all these images here, so use those images to tell the story. Don't rely on exposition heavy dialogue or easy option flashbacks. You know, use all these images you've got at your disposal to tell your story in an interesting and dramatic and active way. And at the same time, don't beat yourself up over exposition. You know, even the biggest Hollywood blockbusters have characters that are basically Mr. Exposition that just come in and say, well, the universe never used to be like this because X, Y, and Z happened, and then A happened again, blah, blah, blah. It's not great writing. Try and avoid it where possible, but don't beat yourself up about it. And if there is a piece of information that you absolutely have to tell your audience, that you want a character to tell another character and you feel like there's no way of showing it or there's no way of conveying it in a subtle way, then my advice would be to camouflage that piece of exposition within a highly dramatic scene. So perhaps the characters are in a car chase and one character turns to the other and blow info dumps, but there's so much action and excitement going on around that dialogue exchange that it doesn't feel so heavy-handed. If you sneak it in as part of something bigger and more dramatic, then it avoids being just a character simply telling the audience or telling the reader what's going on. Therefore, the focus isn't entirely on what's being said, it's also on other exciting things that are happening around the dialogue. So hopefully that video has helped a little bit in demystifying the term exposition heavy. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more on demystifying writing jargon, then check out my channel for a couple of other videos. I also have a blog, so if you prefer to read rather than watch, check out the info bar below, there's links. Also you can follow me on Instagram at joguards_writinglife and on Twitter at joguards. That's it from me for this week. Thanks for watching, keep writing, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.